Zoey Michaels. And I don't know if we're live streaming or if we're recording. I hope that we're recording. So we have another returning guest today. We've had, I think, two before you. So you are our third one this season coming back for round two with some new information for us. Welcome back to the studio, Shamayne. How have you been?
Oh, great. And I hope the third time is a charm then, if I'm number three. I'm doing really well. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for having me back.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah, I can't wait to talk about my book, which is now available. And I'm very excited.
Sounds good. I can see that, like me, you also enjoy a good pun because I was thinking earlier today the shoe was on the other foot.
Yes, love those. I live with someone who enjoys puns, and constantly getting very punny around here. So.
My kind of people. So we were kind of catching up a little bit before we started our recording, and one of the things you brought to my attention that really I didn't notice in the background until you kind of drew attention to it. You said that your husband designed a logo for you, and that's there in your background.
Yes, yes. He um, he is a graphic designer, and he did all the graphics in my workbook that is also available. And then the logo, we did have someone else start it for us, and then he kind of came in and made it a lot like me. He just kind of added those touches. And it's the colors. That one, the one behind me, is in black and white, but I have one with all the colors of my brand. And he's always finding things that can just help me promote shoes that fit her soul, and creating them, and postcards. And he's made sure that everything I have is on brand. And I'm very grateful to have him in my life, and to have him just working above me on the
That
second
is
floor.
such a great combination of teamwork. Having that writing and the coaching, and he's there with his own skill set to also help
Yeah.
support you and customizing that logo, much as a cobbler customizes shoes to a person's foot. How wonderful is
Look at
that?
you. Yes, absolutely. Let's tie that all together. Yes.
Hey, I have to go down that road, right?
I love it. I love it. I mean, that's a good sense of humor. I think that somehow indicates some sort of very high intelligence.
Well, I hope that's true. Sometimes I don't feel that way, but I like the way you think.
Thank you. Well,
So
likewise. I like that.
when we spoke last time, and I think it was early fall, or maybe during the summer, I've lost track, but at that point in time, you had put out a workbook, and it
Yes.
was called, or was it the same name as the book that just came
It's
out?
the same name. They're companions. They can be bought separately or together. But the book is my story. It's my journey, and it's how I came to the workbook as I reached midlife and was struggling with the question of who I am, and why am I here, and am I doing life the way I should have been doing it, or do I had so many questions when I reached midlife. And at that time, women are also going through physical changes and emotional changes, just all of these things hitting us at the same time. And so the book is about that journey that I started and then finished after a decade or two of really just trying to unravel the things that no longer served me or no longer suited me, that I had always just done because that's what you did. It's what I've been conditioned to believe or taught. But as I got into that midlife stage, I just thought, but this doesn't really feel like me anymore. And I never really had a chance before to figure that out because I was busy with all the other hats I wore as a mother and a wife and a career person, answering to other people. And that just wasn't as satisfying as I expected life to turn out at that time. So I write about all of that in my book. And in the process of uncovering peeling back all those layers and really getting closer to myself and figuring myself out to define who I wanted to be and who I wanted to become. I really had this strong desire to also share that with other women, whether it be that we just sit together and talk about our own experiences and learn from one another, or could I come up with a step-by-step model that could kind of keep us on track and kind of help us get to that place that we all desire to be? And it's going to be different from each for each one of us. And that's where the shoes that fit her soul came together. And then my workbook goes through those guided steps, which are there's 8 components in the shoe, and those components kind of direct us and guide us. It's on the surface, it seems like, really, a shoe? How does a shoe really help us? But like talking about putting kind of the puns and the inferences, the things that the shoe, you think about it, and there's, okay, well, the shoe has a soul, and it's what is the foundation of the shoe, and our soul is our foundation. And I just kept going with that idea, and I was like, the heel is behind us. We have to let go and work on healing ourselves from the things in our past that may have tried to damage us or tried to take us away from our destiny. The arch of the shoe is, it's our support in the shoe, but we also need a support system around us to help us along the way. And so I just kept going, component and piece by piece, and the whole shoe comes together to really form that identity. And so I like to tell my listeners and people in my workshops, look at your shoes, because after today, you'll never look at your shoes the same way again. And they're always with you. I mean, they're a reminder of who you are based on the complexity of the shoe, and then who we are. We're very complex people as well. But it's just an easy way to help you get on that path that you may feel like you're missing.
Absolutely. It's an interesting thing about shoes because while there are many different shoe designs, but they make, multiple of the same shoe, you could probably be in a room of 100 people, and odds are that at most, maybe 2 people might be wearing the same shoe. At
Right,
most. Maybe
right.
not, because it's such a personal decision as to what style that you'll want and also what will fit your foot, right? So
Exactly.
no 2 people are exactly like, or even the purpose of a shoe. You're not going to
The
wear the same
purpose.
shoes to go dancing that you would wear to go on a hike.
Right,
Or you might
right.
be a crazy person like me who spends all winter in Dallas wearing sandals, like we were
And some
talking about
people can.
beforehand.
And we do have days that are warm enough. I'm down here in Texas myself, and yes, it's possible. But like you said, it's our own personal style, our own personal decision, and functionality, and like you said, dancing and hiking. You're not going to wear the same shoes, and so I kind of see the shoe is equipment. It's part of the equipment we need for whatever task or whatever job or whatever activity that we're going to take place doing. You need a specific shoe, and that's how I saw the shoe as a metaphor, and that we each need something specific for who we want to become and who we are striving to be, and each of those components are going to be a piece of us, and as we put it together, that forms our identity. And if you've never been able to do that on your own, or you've never been taught or giving any instruction on how to do that, I mean, most of us, I think you mentioned, or I was talking to someone earlier, and it's like we were talking about raising our children. And she's in a different stage than I am. My kids are full grown adults and living on their own. She still has teenagers. And we were just talking about how we aren't given a manual,
Right.
Nobody hands you the manual and says, "This is how it's done." You're just kind of winging it.
I was
And
thinking
life,
about that earlier. We have all these classes. We're taught, all these things, but there's no class saying, here's how to adult 101. There's no such
Right.
thing.
Right. And it's not till you're well into that adult life that you might realize, wait a minute, this is not how I expected to be an adult. It seems like I'm doing the things maybe my parents were doing, or guardians or grandparents, or whatever. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It's just that sometimes it didn't work out the way, you're planned, and also you're different from those people. Even though you come from the same line, you still have different qualities and characteristics and personalities. So it only makes sense that you've got to create what's right for you. And that's just like going out and purchasing a pair of shoes. You're going to purchase the shoes that are right for you. And maybe they're similar to the people you grew up with, and so forth. But having having your own identity just feels better because it's yours and no one can take that away from you. So if you grew up being taught to be a certain way and conditioned to be certain, I mean, society does that to us too. Society
Sure.
says, we have these roles, these are best fit for women, these are best fit for men. And, they try to put us all into silos. And so it just feels better when we're getting to make those choices for ourselves. And the best way to begin doing that, to take it outwardly, is to first go inward and really understand who we are on the inside and write that story, define it for yourself. And that way you become more authentic and people will know you for truly who you are. And I don't know, you've probably found this in your life too, Zoe, but the more authentic I became, the more people came into my life that were needed in my life, that are my lifetime friends, and they're the mentors and the people that were right for my life.
Yeah.
And
That
that's when
makes
my life
sense.
started really turning around and I started feeling like, yeah, this is more meaningful. This is more fulfilling. I have I feel I have more of a purpose now because I know what I stand for. I know my beliefs, and my values. So once I was able to put all that together, um, life became, I don't want to say it got easy because, life in general is just not easy.
No,
It's
no.
ups and downs all the time. But the way I approached those challenges and the way I approached life was now suddenly much more meaningful. And it was also, it made it maybe easier to bounce back. I'll say that, if,
Yeah. And you
having a
had the
challenge, it
time
was
and
no
had that
longer,
support because you finally are in tune. You know where you're at, and you're drawing people of like mindedness because you found that
yeah,
spot.
I
I think
became
that's
more
what you're
authentic.
saying.
You're right. That's exactly, I mean, we can relate, as women, especially. And I remember being afraid. I was in my early 40s, and that was when I was, questioning everything. And I made the decision one day, and it was about a few years into this questioning process. I'm going to start dressing more the way I like to dress. And I'm talking about for work, going to work. Now, it was still professional, but I was going to be picking things I felt more comfortable in. For one, I stopped wearing high heels,
Yes.
pumps.
Yep.
I was in corporate, but I have never liked wearing pumps and the higher heel. They're just not comfortable for me. I'd rather be in something like I wear loafers and loafers that tie and loafers you slip on, and I found ways to dress around that. And I just felt so much more at ease and comfortable. And then one time I decided I'm going to cut my hair and I even colored it for a little bit in a kind of a plum color. And, but I was just trying out new ways to express myself and my authenticity and the way I felt on the inside. And I didn't feel weird when I did it. What I was afraid of was people wouldn't like me anymore. And what I found out is that more people appreciated my authentic person rather than the person I was. No longer, they weren't hesitant to approach me anymore. They approached me because I felt open to them. And all I was doing is really just trying to be more authentic for myself. I wasn't mean. I mean, I didn't. I wasn't like a mean person before, and I became super nice or something. I just became more authentic, and they could read it. They may not have known what was different, but they could feel it.
Yeah. And that really makes sense. Society, there's certain rules, like in the corporate world, the dress codes, and you have to dress a certain way and be a certain way. And so you end up with basically everyone looking the same, like a bunch of penguins, right? It's like
Yeah,
that old Far Side comic where you've got that one penguin that's singing "I've gotta be me" in the midst of all the singing penguins, right?
right,
And then they did the poster where they took that one penguin that was singing and made it yellow, which kind of defeated Gary Larson's purpose, but still, you were basically that yellow penguin in the sea of penguins.
right, right.
But that drew
That,
people because, oh, she is different, but she's different in a good way.
yes. Don't you know? Haven't you felt that way where you just felt like you were um, just one in a number of many people, all looking and doing the same thing, talking the same way, um, and I'm not one to. After all that, I really don't want to bring attention to myself necessarily. It's not that I'm trying to get attention. I just want to feel like myself. I just want to feel comfortable in my own shoes, you know?
There you go, right back to the
Right
point.
back to my shoe. I mean, the shoe for me has just been such a breakthrough in my life, especially in this second half of my life. And that was one of the questions I asked myself at 41. Do you want to live the next 20 years the way you've lived the last 20 years?
It's a good
And
question.
it had nothing to do with the circumstances around me. It had to do with my emotional well-being and my the way I talked to myself and the way I talked to others. I felt like I had more to offer. I just didn't know how to do it. So that was the reason for writing the book and the workbook, which I wrote after the journey, or at least midway through, because I am now 20 years after that point where I asked that question. And obviously, I changed the way I was living at that time and moved into something more like myself, more authentic and more rewarding for me. Like I said, every day is not just wonderful and it's a celebration every single day. We have, ups and downs. Just I have ups and downs like
Yes.
everybody, and
Yeah.
I experience the same things. I mean, going through menopause and or perimenopause. Nobody told me perimenopause would last 10 years. I'm like, what? Here I am 10 years into it. I'm like, is that what I was going through for those last 10 years? Was perimenopause? What is menopause? And then I got the explanation of, oh, well, menopause is just from the time you stop your period, and after 1 year, that's menopause. I'm like, so you jump from 10 years here, one little year here, and now I'm postmenopause, which is something else altogether. So it's like
Well, and
no
they don't
one
tell you
was
about all the fun stuff you go through besides just that one thing. It's like, yeah, no one gave me the memo on all the other things my body would do to me and cause
right.
headaches and all the rest of it. It's like, why is it a secret? But we're not a medical program. We're not going to go into that.
No, no, and that's really just my experience and
Yes.
how uninformed I was
Hmm.
about a lot of things, and the major thing I was uninformed about was really who am I? Who am I deep down?
Absolutely.
And so I took a long time to figure that out, and I did it intentionally. I wasn't in a hurry to change everything all at once. I wanted to take things one step at a time. And maybe, that's the way I work. That's the way I operate. It's always been, taking one step at a time. But in this situation, when I got to the end, and I don't, we never stopped growing. We never stopped changing. So it's not really the end. But when I got to a point where I could look back and see the changes I had made, then I started asking, well, how did I do it? What did I do? And that's when the shoe kind of came into play because I had that dream, the dream about going for a walk and forgetting my shoes. And when I woke up, I was like, why did you forget your shoes? What does that have to do with your life? And that's when I realized the shoe is going to help you put all those pieces together so you can talk about your journey in a very methodical way.
Absolutely. We keep talking about shoes, and I keep thinking back to this time in my early 20s in Dallas. Had this wonderful roommate, but she was all about her shoes. She loved her shoes. And we had very different shifts, but at the same job. So we knew the same people. And there was this one night, because I worked the night shift, and I was up all night. And I was up to the point where, well, she's going to be up for work soon because had a really early shift. So as she's getting dressed, and we had this habit where our house was too big for us to have a conversation in separate rooms. I would just follow her around and talk to her while she did what she needed to do. So she's demonstrating to me what she's going to wear to work that day. And she's like, should I wear this shoe or should I wear this shoe? Now, these shoes were the same color, but they had different heel heights, right?
Hmm.
And one was a strap and one was a pump. And so I'm like, well, you should wear that shoe. And then, she came in, ate the breakfast that I happened to make for her that morning, and, she went off to work. And so she comes home from work later that day after I'd been sleeping, and I wake up and she's like, look at what I'm wearing. And so I'm like, what? You look great. You always look great. She's like, look again. Like, I don't
Oh,
see anything. Well,
no.
she had gone to work with both of those different shoes on that day.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so she's walking around, and people are like, saying how nice she looks. And, she models her dress in the lunchroom and all this. So she tells me that it was not until the afternoon, as she's talking to our manager, and she's sitting there with her leg crossed, and she's flipping the one shoe, she's talking to him, crosses, goes back to the other, starts to flip the other leg, and then she realizes it's not flipping, and her face turns beet red. He's like, what did I miss? And then, then he's like, oh, you're wearing different shoes. And then suddenly everyone in the office knows she's been wearing different shoes all day. So imagine that happening, right? And I'm thinking, wow, that could be an interesting metaphor for someone whose life has multiple examples, right? Very
Uh-huh.
converging. Someone who's got, like, well, here's this lifestyle, but this parent emulated, or this side of the family emulated this side of the
Right,
family was very extremely different and
right.
emulated that. That could be such an interesting avenue for making another
Yeah,
book.
no, that's a great conversation. I've heard similar. I mean, that's bless her heart. I bet she was just mortified, and
She
that
was.
no one could tell, or no one said anything. Of course, there's probably nothing she could have done except take them both
No,
off and just walked
exactly.
around with no shoes.
I honestly
But
think no one noticed until she noticed.
that is so funny. And I've heard different stories to that effect of where people have the same type shoe in different colors,
Hmm.
and they go in their closet and put, maybe the lights out or whatever, but they put on that shoe and get to work and realize they're wearing one is black and one is blue or whatever. And but that's also speaks to the fact that sometimes we are just going at such a rapid pace, and we are so on autopilot of get up, eat, get dressed, go to work, come home, eat, go to bed, and it's just, or whatever else you have in the middle of
Beware of your
requires.
roommates or your companions.
Yes, and so that tells us how much of we are on autopilot, and going through the exercise of really delving in and figuring out more about yourself, you become more self-aware too. And having that self-awareness then extends to our outer world and being more aware of the things around us. And Not she didn't do anything wrong. It just sounds like, man, she had a lot going on and she wasn't, her mind was just about get ready, get out the door and get to work. And I had a coach or someone, it was a webinar, something I was attending, and they were saying, how our autopilot, example of just driving to work,
Yes.
you're driving along and you're like, gosh, I don't remember going through that intersection back there. I don't remember. And it's because, you're on
Yes.
autopilot. You do it every day. And
Hmm.
then have you ever, during your morning routine the night before, you're like, oh, I need to go buy the dry cleaners on my way to work. And so you get in the car and you're driving and you're driving and you're driving and you're like, whoa, I passed the dry cleaners. I was supposed to do that. But your brain is just like, let's just get to
Let's
work
get to
like we do
work.
every day.
Yep.
So having that connection to yourself and having that self awareness begins to kind of help you get out of that routine. And I know that sometimes it's okay when you're, especially when you drive the same path every day and it's a boring drive because you've done it so many times. It's kind of nice to have that autopilot while you're listening to your tunes or
True.
whatever, your podcast or whatever. Um, but it's also good to stay aware and, also begin to appreciate the things around you. And I remember having, when I was trying to break that habit of just staying in autopilot all the time, one of the things I did was on the way to work, same drive I took every day, I started noticing the things that I could appreciate that were on the road. And I went through a neighborhood and then I got on the highway. So it's not like there was a whole lot, but I really started paying attention, and I would say silly things like, as I came to the stop sign right outside my condo area, I'd say, I appreciate this stop sign because it's keeping other cars from coming and hitting me, and I can stop and look, and then I pass a fire hydrant, and I'm like, I appreciate that fire hydrant because it is close to my house, and if something happens in our condo complex, there's a fire hydrant that can help put the fire out. I was just making up
Yeah.
things
You,
as I saw them. The grass, I love the grass because it stays cool in the summer when we're hot. We can see, things like that. I was just
yeah.
so that got
Actively
me
engaged.
it got me to engage with my surroundings on my way to work. It passed the time for me, and it also I did begin to appreciate life more because there are things that we take for granted every single day, as small as the stop sign or the stoplight or the fire hydrant or the trees and the grass, And this, I'm not, trying to get way out there and say, oh, but it's just a way of just beginning to recognize that there are other things happening around you than what's going on right there inside of your head or,
Tunnel vision versus stopping to smell the
none of it.
roses.
Exactly. That's all it is. But that was just a simple way of kind of breaking that habit to come out of that autopilot from time to time and be intentional about it.
I would wager that perhaps doing that also maybe decrease stress levels, maybe more so on the way home. But I would imagine that by being more actively engaged, it also helped you to more fully relax and just be in the moment.
Yes, absolutely. And you're right about the drive home could be more stressful, although as traffic has increased, either way was going to be stressful. But yeah, you're right. So it took my mind off of that stressor and put it into places that would benefit me better or more and just make it. And then I'd start my day at work feeling more positive, and by the end of the day, if something happened during the day and driving home, I could process it that way too, just kind of work through it before I got home because I didn't want to be taking it out on my husband or anyone else because I'd had a bad day. They didn't have anything to do with it. um, so it was just an easy way to break that, um, like you said, tunnel vision or even the ruminating of what's happening. That
Absolutely. So, one of the things I think we talked about it a little bit when we had our first interview together. You took some training, you became a coach. So, to what extent is the information in your book like how often do you use shoe analogies? if at all, with your coaching.
Yeah, I do use some of my training in the ways that I speak. Like the thought model, which is a pretty well known way of stopping thoughts in your head and kind of redirecting them in a more positive way. Things like that. I talk about those. It's not original for me. It's something I learned, and I'll use examples of things that I learned from my master coach. The thing was, I went through all of that training, and I loved it, and I was doing it just to see if I was capable of doing it, because I was still working full time in corporate, and but as I got through it, and then as I developed this other program, as I'm getting new revelations and new ideas, I realized that what I want to do more than just one-on-one coaching is supporting other, like support groups for women where we can come together and speak about the situations and experiences that we are all going through and that we can all relate to, and then learn from one another about how we can get through it. And knowing that we can, having each other is one way that we get through it. And so that's when I created the workbook, that was my redirection of uh, from one-to-one coaching into more of a support group atmosphere. And but yes, I do talk about some of the things that I learned. And one of them was, life coaching. As you go through life coaching training, one of the things you're learning to do is self-analyze. And so you learn to start questioning why you have certain thoughts and why you have certain actions, and you do. And so you learn to spot those things. And then it's up to you to, go through it and kind of figure out, well, why did I respond in that way? When I look back on it, it wasn't very appropriate for what happened to me. I just responded in a quick way and it sounded awful. I don't want to do that. Why did I do it? And so then I trace back and try to figure out. And that really helped me in my own journey of how to get through it and start to recognize that some of the habits I had and some of the patterns were simply because it's what I had learned from my family unit, from my dysfunctional family system that I came from.
Makes
And once I
sense.
could recognize that, I was able to correct it and learn new ways to do and handle those things.
Like that. That's very good. So, in these groups, is there an age group you're specifically in tune with, as far as who would really benefit from the groups that you put together?
Yes. I've been told by my younger nieces and other friends and younger people and even men could benefit from this. But my focus and my intention when I created this was for women going through midlife challenges. So when you get there, you know it. When you get there, you see this is what they were always talking about. It's not a midlife crisis. It may feel that way at times. It's not an identity crisis, although it may feel that way. There's many labels and names they've put on that middle around 40 years old, but really it's a shift in who you are. It's a shift in your physical body, your emotional body. Everything is beginning to shift. And how do we take that shift and bring it together with our own identity and really just create a more rewarding and meaningful life? It's not over, at midlife. It's just beginning. You're shifting into something new and more powerful. I mean, women, those of you who are listening that have reached even 50, you're like, I don't care about some of this stuff anymore because you all of a sudden don't care about what other people think. Um,
Yes, that's actually the one really good thing about that age.
Exactly. There are others. Now, I'm not saying that I don't have a little bit of self-esteem issues sometimes where I think, are they, but it surely is a whole lot less than it was when I was younger. So when you ask me who this really resonates with in my teaching and everything. It's women who have reached midlife and are going through these later years and just trying to figure out what can I do with the rest of my life. I want to, I'm not ready to lay down and just quit. I want to keep going and start contributing to this world and to my community and to my family in a more productive and purposeful way. How do I do that? And
Absolutely.
my yeah, I just figured out for me, it was really just getting to know myself in the best way possible so that I could become the best version of myself for those around me.
Absolutely. I wish there was something in the animal kingdom. I keep thinking about like a caterpillar to a butterfly, and I feel like there needs to be a third step because we women go through such changes. So I feel like there's
Mhm.
caterpillar, cat. Let's try that again. Caterpillar, butterfly, and then like some kind of butterfly super rocket type of thing. I feel like there
Well,
should be a
there
third
what is
stage.
there is a stage in between. Well, it's when it goes into its cocoon to become the
Mm,
butterfly.
right.
And I'm gosh, somebody's out there yelling at us. It's this, it's this. But
Probably
there is a stage right in that middle part where the cocoon is
the
built and they're
metamorphosis part.
metamorphosis. They're transitioning, transforming, and then they open up. And that's kind of what it feels like, though. That's such a great analogy because when you get to that point and you feel like you've accomplished the trying times and the transformation, and you're feeling better about yourself, and you're feeling more like yourself, and you are comfortable with who you are. That's kind of what but the butterfly breaks out and it's just fluttering along in the breeze and the wind and going thousands of miles too, which tells you even after you've got to this point and you're in your 60s like I am, I have thousands of miles to go still. And
I
I have
think
a
so.
lot more to offer. And I won't stop until it's over.
If you're hearing the whining, that would be my dog Moses. He likes to whine for no reason at all, except that he'd like to be having attention. So if you hear that, my apologies, and please ignore him.
I think he was agreeing with me. I think he was saying, "You're right."
Maybe so. But yeah, so I guess the cocoon phase would be just when we're grown women and we're still trying to find our way through to this point.
Trying to
So yeah,
develop, trying to recreate ourselves and trying to develop into that person that we were always meant to be. And that's when the butterfly comes out because we have gone through the process, the tough, the hard process of getting to that point. And and then we can be free and free to live the life we have written for ourselves. So it's no longer dictated by other people's stories. And we still have to follow some of the rules, I mean,
yeah, can't
but
escape those rules.
especially can't escape them, especially if you're in corporate. But there's some benefits there to being there. And then at some point, my mother-in-law always says, when it's not fun anymore, it's time to quit. And I mean, there are a lot of days it wasn't so fun, but I know now what she means because it got to the point for me in my career where it was so not fun anymore that I was really stressing a lot and I was coming home crying a lot. And it was either I needed to make a different path for myself in a career or in corporate, or it was time for me to leave that space and come into a new space, which was scary. But that's where I am today. And I created Shoes That Fit Her Soul LLC. I have a trademark for my product, I have a copyright for my shoes, uh, the shoe steps. So I did all of that. It took a long time, but I'm here and I'm so much more happier and fulfilled because I feel my life is much more meaningful now. And but it could not have happened at a sooner time. I would not have been ready back then. It was just not. I was prepping for this time, over the last 20 years. I had been prepping for this moment. And it wasn't anyone else doing the work but me. Yes, I had plenty of support and I had mentors and I had people advising me and things like that. But the work that was put into it, I did the work.
Yeah. Only you can follow that journey to reach that spot where you can now say, look at where I've been. But you have to have the journey to get there.
Exactly. It was all
Gotta
part of the
hike your
process. It was
shoes.
all part of the metamorphosis.
Exactly. Gotta hike those trails first.
That's right. And you need the proper equipment. So don't forget to get the right shoes.
Exactly. I was thinking earlier, you had said something about, I think, the top, but there's the plateaus. You go out to Colorado and you've got these high points on the Martin Mountain, but that journey, you've got these different plateaus, and then you go
Yes,
up to another level and there's another plateau. And maybe it's like that. We're at that certain plateau here in our 50s or 60s, and there's another plateau waiting for us to climb and reach to that point.
that's such a good analogy there, Zoe. It is exactly how my journey unfolded. And if you pay attention to that path, that was that whole thing about what made my life more um, gratifying was recognizing those things. And so I went through my divorce and I went through losing my first husband in an accident, and I went through not having a stable job for 4 years and all that. But each time, those plateaus, I'd work my way through it and I'd get up higher on the plateau. And when I would get to that place, there was something inside me that would just be like, okay, I think I'm there. Something's about to break through. I don't know what it is, but it's coming. I can sense it because I had done all the work and I got to that plateau. And also, I became restless. I don't know about you, but just as I'm about to go to the next plateau or next level, I get very restless. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now, but I just know there's something there, and I just can't figure it out. And and then within a short period of time of a few months or something, all of a sudden it's opening up, and I'm like, okay, I've come into this new level now. Here it is. I must have been, because I think when we get restless, I think we are ready for that next challenge.
I think you may be
It's
right. What you're
it,
saying is
it just
resonating with me, and I think you've got a good point there.
It yeah, it I hope this way a lot of people notice and feel, because just take a moment to notice how you're feeling, and understand that, okay, if I'm restless, I mean, your experiences and your past experiences, you should be able to look and see. And that's what's so great about life, is you've got experiences to look and reflect back on, especially when we get into uncertain times. You've been through uncertainty before, it just didn't look this way. And oh yeah, I remember I had to go through that and I made it through. I made it. And and things got better for a while, but now I'm back at this new one. Um, it's just our lives tell a story, and it continues to tell that story. And it's up to us at some point that we begin taking over that story and making it our own.
So true. And I just kind of want to add to that. Like when I look back, I remember that restlessness about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago. And I would have sworn that the thing to move forward would have been changing jobs. Turns out
Mhm.
it wasn't that. Turns out it
Mhm.
was feeding the inner person. It was, pursuing other things. In my case, it was in writing books and actually publishing them, and then later launching this podcast. That helped me to then be satisfied with my work life because I had this
Yes.
other outlet. So, change, I would say pay attention, but the change you think you want may not be the one you need.
Right. It doesn't have to be drastic. It just has to you just have to deviate a little bit, maybe, in this time. I've had to do slight deviations and then bigger ones, like leaping out of a corporate salary and job and stability and coming into this, like, okay, but I kind of had to be pushed out that way because I got to a point in corporate where I was eligible for early retirement, and it had come up before, but this time when it happened, I'm like, I am going. I have to do this because I can't
Yeah,
keep putting it off.
absolutely. And
But
that was a stable way for you to do that.
yeah,
So that was a good thing.
it was, and I love that you brought up the fact that you don't have to quit your job. You don't have to leave a marriage. You don't have to do all these things that seem drastic.
Mhm.
Sometimes you need to. I mean,
Yes.
absolutely. There are
Yeah.
times that you should never take abuse or any type of mishandling of your life. But there are times where we just get bored or burned out or something. And what I did the same thing you did. I found other outlets within my company and within myself to help me make it through the unforgiving and kind of uneasy parts of my job that I didn't really like, but it was still part of my job. But having
Exactly.
those other things to do, we had a lot of programs available to me in my corporate company where, there was a women's networking group. There was a mindfulness and compassion group that I actually helped put together during the pandemic. And so I found other outlets that really suited my passion and the part of me that wants to give. I found places to do that. And that helped me get through my job until it came time that I was eligible again for early retirement, and I'm like, "I've got enough. I've done enough for my work and written enough in my book. I'm gonna leave now." And I
There you
exited on
go.
my own terms.
That's the key.
So,
That's the
yeah.
key. And doing it in a stable, mindful way, not just going, okay, I'm done, without a plan,
Right,
just using
right.
good judgment. That I never want our audience to think that, oh, well, let's just do this. They succeeded.
Yeah, it's just that simple.
Everyone's
No,
circumstances are different. Please count the cost, make sure, make wise
exactly, and
decisions.
it can be difficult to know what's the right thing to do. And that's when I would consult other people or consult
Yes.
a therapist, even if that was necessary, or
Hmm.
just a mentor. I talked to a
Yes.
whole lot of people that I looked up to in my company before I took that step.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think the only
exactly.
time you go, "Oh, I'm done. That's it," is when you win a billion-dollar lottery ticket or something like that.
I hope
Yeah, I
so.
can do it now.
I
See ya.
was raised by a really wonderful man. My father was a very good man, but he had such a drive, such an entrepreneurial spirit. He so badly wanted to work for himself, and he tried over and over again.
Well,
And he never managed to succeed with it. And although our family never went hungry, we never were without a
mhm.
roof over our head. I know that had he had a mentor or had he sought out some counsel, maybe he would have succeeded.
Yeah.
Um, but he would have done well to have had some counsel, some mentoring, because he undermined his own livelihood, and of course, our family. Again, while we didn't starve and we had a roof, it was not really good for the family. So that's why I definitely urge caution to people: take some good
Absolutely.
steps.
Excuse me.
So,
I was
so
getting caught up in your
yeah,
moment
no
and your
worries.
words. Um, no, you're absolutely right. Making a rash decision or a fast decision. I love his determination. I love that he was
Yeah,
determined and persistent about what he needed to do and wanted to do. And that was probably very fulfilling for him just to the failures had to feel hard for him, but he was determined and he just kept
he
trying and he
was.
just kept trying.
Yeah, he
But yeah,
really.
for
Yeah.
making rash decisions suddenly without counsel, I recommend that wholeheartedly, um, if
And I
that's
think
what you need.
timing can play into it as
And
well. I
timing.
think
Yeah,
had he been my in my age group now, had was he if he was here now at my
yeah,
age, he probably would succeed at this point in time, because the
sure,
technology would have allowed him
sure.
to fulfill because he was too far ahead, I think. But neither here nor there.
Yeah.
That's that's
No, but
sad.
you're
Very
right. I
sad.
think sometimes we may, and then I have to tell you, I'm a very patient person. And so not everyone has the kind of patience it takes to hang in there for, a little bit longer, or, and some people don't have a choice or an option. But if you do, and if you can hang in there, patience is truly what they say a virtue. It helped
Right.
me. I mean, I practice it, but it has helped me prevent me from making some of the wrong decisions. And I've made plenty in my life, but the patience has always been a reward for me. It's just to be able to hang in there sometimes when you need to. But
Absolutely. And the circumstances. This is a man who had five children, five mouths plus a wife
he
to
had to
feed. So
feed you
circumstances
and
factor in, and counting the cost, making sure. But again, you know, just
different times,
count the
different
cost.
measures. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we do live in, and then our children and our grandchildren growing up in a different time and place than we did too. So they're going to have a different outlook and different perspective about things for themselves.
Absolutely.
And
So we're to the point in our broadcast where we've got the random question. And our last guest actually gave you two options. So you are welcome to answer one of these questions or both of them, depending on how you feel
okay.
about it. So the first question he had put out was, if you were to start a movement, what would that movement be about? So that's question one, option one. The other option is, what person would you like to meet, past or present? So one or both, whichever one resonates with you.
Yeah, they both kind of do. The movement, I kind of feel like I'm in that place right now. It may not feel like a historic movement of, like the civil rights, or women's the ERA or anything like that, but I do feel like I'm already in a sort of movement where I am um, wanting to bring the attention to women about our autonomy, our identity, and the worth that we have, our value, you know. So in a sense, I feel like I'm on that path, and I'm just going to have to see how things turn out, how things expand and go from here. And then having who would I have? I've been asked this question a couple of times, and I always I always come back to my grandfather. And I say my grandfather, and maybe my grandparents, but I would just love to know more of my family history. And my grandfather reminds me of your dad because he was an inventor. He was constantly inventing things. He had a patent on a metal clothespin. He was born in the early 1900s. So he invented some things that have long passed because they've improved upon, and things like that. They're something to do with a tire, some sort of special tire. But he invented tons of things. That's just where his mind was, but he did not succeed at anything because he managed to get one patent, but I guess he wasn't getting anything else, and nothing ever turned into that dream business that he wanted. So yeah, I'd like to just sit down with him just to kind of get to know his personality. He died when I was in my early 20s, but I was still so young and naive about what to ask. The questions. What are the questions we should be asking our grandparents, you know? Maybe
Right.
we need to, get my grandkids, "Y'all need to start asking me questions now," because I won't be around forever. But, yeah, I think those 2 I admired him when I was little, and so I'd love to sit down with him again and just talk about what I've done and ask him about what his life was like, and, how what his struggles were and things like that. Oh no.
Absolutely. It's always interesting to look at your family history if you have the presence of mind to ask about it while there's still someone
Yeah.
around who can tell you about it. Sometimes we
Right.
don't think of those
Right.
questions until much too late in life. And then, the people who are around may know some of it, but not the full extent that you would like to know. So, yeah.
Exactly. I don't know. I think that would be interesting. That would be interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I have a little bit of a surprise for our audience. This was a kind of a stray thought that occurred to me during my lunch today. And I thought, you know what? I think I might do this. So up until now, we've had the Molten Truth, which has been about interviews with various people like Shamayne and some of our music artists and so on. But I was thinking today, remembering how much I enjoyed, and maybe you remember Paul Harvey, the rest of the story.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember listening
Oh
to those
yeah.
when we in our younger
Hmm.
days?
I was
And I
in,
got to
yeah, I
think,
remember.
yeah,
I was
exactly.
thinking, what day was it, like on a Sunday or something? I just love Paul Harvey
Yes,
and his
Sunday.
voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mainly I remember him on road trips because that's mainly when our focus was like we were listening to the AM radio. And the best part of the
Hmm.
road trip, other than when we had good music, was listening to Paul Harvey tell these stories and then find out, okay, and this is who this was about. And I know there are podcasts out there that are somewhat along those lines, but I work with a medical facility here in the state where I live. So often my mind is on medical things and how certain people's medical conditions can affect change in the medical industry or create awareness in some cases. For example, earlier this year, what happened with Gene Hackman and his wife, you know,
Yeah.
um, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if I could combine the idea of Paul Harvey's The Rest of the Story with people that are well known and their medical conditions and kind of maybe discuss it medically. And so I thought, well, how about the rest of the story, medically speaking? So I'm toying with the idea, and I've 99% decided I might go through with it to create another podcast along those lines
Well,
where
that's
I just
wonderful.
share kind of here's a story, and then you find out the medical condition, and then this is this person at the end of the story.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure yet if I'll have interviews. I'm thinking because I was outlining that there might have to be some interviews with some medical professionals in some
Right.
instances. But what do you think?
I think that's a great idea because on top of that, many of us live with hidden conditions that no one even knows about. And
True.
that puts us into a category. I myself have epilepsy, but not many people know that about me because my epilepsy is controlled, but I still have seizures from time to time at different mainly at night. So most people don't even know I carry this with me. So there are times when I'm really tired or just don't feel like doing something, but I look completely normal to people and they're like, what's wrong with her? And I feel like, oh, they're going to think I'm lazy or this or that and the other. And it's not like I don't share it with them, but when you carry something like that, and that's just one particular thing, people don't know what you're actually going through on the inside,
It's true.
and
And
it's
they
hard for
judge
them
it
to know.
based on their circumstances. So,
Exactly, exactly. And, when you don't see it every day and you're not aware of it every day, you forget. I'm talking about other people. Look, they forget about it, and so um, I think it's a great way to talk to people who have accomplished certain things or done certain things, yet while all the while battling these other ailments or diseases that they just in other words, I didn't let that define my life. I didn't let it become my sole identity. It's a piece of who I am, but it doesn't control who I am.
absolutely. Well, cool. So, our audience can look forward to finding out more as I put that podcast together, and I'll have an announcement at some point as to when that will make its debut. But thank you so much for joining us, Shamayne, and thank you for your feedback, even at the tail end of that little surprise thought process there. Did
You're
you have a
welcome.
question for a future guest?
Um, I guess based on my teachings and the things that I emphasize in life about really understanding who you are and all that, I would say, um, maybe ask, I mean, how would we put this into a question like, what do they need now in their life? And what do they
Okay.
need now to make it more fun? Or what would make their life more fun? Like if they could not have to worry about any of the stresses and the things in their life, what could they add to their life that would just make it more fun or more enjoyable?
Okay, I'm going to read this back to you because I've kind of combined your thoughts here. So,
Okay,
what do you need in your life to make it more fun, less stressful, or more enjoyable?
that
Sound
sounds
about
good.
right?
Hmm.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Well, again, thank you so much. Hang out with me after we stop recording. I'll give you a little more information. But
Okay. Well,
again,
it was a
our audience
pleasure.
appreciated you.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Zoe. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it
And
too.
you can find me, Shamayne Olivia. I'm just about everywhere as Shamayne Olivia. Amazon, Shamayne Olivia has my books, and my website is Shoes That Fit Her Soul.
Perfect. And let's spell your name because it's not visible to our audience. So it's Shamayne, Olivia, just like the normal spelling. Hopefully, everyone knows that one. Do you have a website?
Yes, Shoes That Fit Her Soul.
.com.
.com.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes.
Perfect. That's okay. Sometimes we get from some folks from Canada, and it turns out theirs is .ca. So it's just worth
Yes. No, you're
clarifying that
absolutely
one.
right. I forget. Yes. .com. Shoes That Fit Her
Very
Soul.
good.
.com.
Perfect. Okay. Well, and we'll include that in the description when I put out the little blurb that describes the episode. So hang tight with me, and we're gonna end the broadcast. Thank you for joining us. Please, if you enjoyed our show, like, subscribe, share with friends, help us grow. Thank you.